And now from Washington, the Inside Scoop. All the news the government does not want you to hear.
Welcome to another edition of Inside Scoop Virginia. My name is George Burke, and I'll be your host for the next hour. Tonight we're going to talk about the clerk of court. We have two Democratic candidates who are running for that position in Fairfax County and in Prince William County. We have Dale Evans, who is running as Democrat in Fairfax County. That court also covers Fairfax City, and he's right here. And we have Bill Ryland, who is running as a Democrat for clerk of court in Prince William County, Manassas, and Manassas Park. Welcome, gentlemen.
Welcome. Thank you, George.
Dale, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm 60 years old, and I was born and raised in Flint, Michigan. Came from a family of auto workers, and I now reside in McLean, Virginia, where I have served on the McLean Community Center Governing Board, the Little League Board of Directors for the McLean Little League. I've been on the orchestra board in McLean. I'm presently the president of the Langley Boosters, helping them with their sports program. And I'm a realtor that sells real estate in and around Virginia, but I'm based in McLean. And I've been involved in politics for most of my, I would say 50 of my 60 years. My first campaign was in 1960, working for Jack Kennedy. And my mother took me door to door while she was handing out brochures. And I've been involved since then running presidential and congressional, Senate, and state house races in Michigan and around the country. And I've been in Virginia now since 1990 and just love the place.
Thank you, Dale. Bill, same thing. Please tell the viewers a little bit about who you are.
Thank you, George. Thanks for the opportunity to be here with you and everyone at home. My name is Bill Ryland. I'm running as a candidate for Clerk of Circuit Court in Prince William County, Manassas Park. I'm a Virginia native. I was born and raised here in Virginia, initially in Warsaw, Virginia, which is in the northeast corner of the state of Virginia, and was raised there, went to public schools, graduated from public schools there in the northern neck of Virginia, and went to college in Richmond at University of Richmond, also at law school at T.C. Williams Law School at University of Richmond, and then came up to Northern Virginia to practice law. And my first position as an attorney was to be an assistant Commonwealth attorney in Prince William County, Manassas and Manassas Park. And I served in that position for the community for 10 years. Then I was appointed as clerk of circuit court to fill out the unexpired term of my predecessor. And then I've been in private practice for over 15 years. So I've been in the community of Prince William, Manassas Park for 27 years now. And I hope to continue to serve the community by being elected clerk of circuit court for the county and the two cities.
Thank you. Dale, you're running against a gentleman named John Fry, who's held that position for 16 years.
That's right.
It's ironic that after 16 years in office, nobody knows his name. You ask anybody who the clerk of court is in Fairfax, they couldn't tell you. He's managed to certainly stay below the radar screen. And in your case, Bill, you've got Michelle McQueig, who I recall is a Republican delegate who has given up her seat.
Yes.
I suspect she voted for those abuser fees, as we have been calling them. And Lucy Beecham, who I believe is a Republican who is now running as an independent. So you have basically two Republicans running against you.
Yes, that's the case in Prince William.
Dale, tell us a little bit about why you are running for this position.
Well, I think you sort of hit on it a little bit, George, when you were talking about the fact that no one knows my opponent's name or who. This is a position he's held for 16 years, and it's a position that the public should be well aware of because this is an important position in Fairfax County. The only access that residents of Fairfax County and people in the state of Virginia have to the court system is through the clerk's office. Our judges aren't elected, so therefore the only way you have any way to approach the system is to try to come to someone and talk to them about the problems you've had in the process. As clerk, one of the things that I think is going to be very important It's to sort of act as what I'd like to call the ombudsman for the people of Fairfax County and Fairfax City, so that when they come into the legal system and they're dealing with the courts, they have someplace they can come and they can talk about that process. If you've had a problem on jury duty, you need to be able to talk to somebody. Presently, nobody sees the clerk of the court, so nobody gets to talk to him. I want to be there. I want to be accessible. I want to talk to the people. My whole life has been about grassroots, have been about being involved with the people. That's why I'm a Democrat. That's what I believe in. I think it's very important that government serve the people and not necessarily just sit there and draw a fat paycheck because you sat in a seat for 16 years. So mine's about access. I want to improve the system. This is a system that people deal with all their life, through birth all the way to death. They deal with the divorce courts. They deal with the adoption agencies. They notary public. It's very significant to people's lives, and it's a shame that people don't know who our clerk is.
It's ironic. In many states, the job of clerk of court, as it's outlined in the Commonwealth, is actually held by 2 or 3 different people. There may be a clerk of court, there may be a register of probate, there may be a register of deeds, but here in Virginia, it's all piled into one massive position, at least in larger municipalities like Fairfax and Prince William, actually have a lot of staff and the like. I believe the largest caseload in the state is in Fairfax County,
Yes.
and the 3rd largest is in Prince William.
Yes.
Bill, tell us a little bit about why you are seeking this position.
The race in Prince William County, Manassas and Manassas Park, is a situation where there is no incumbent. The incumbent decided to retire, the person who was previously elected. And that means it's going to be an open position, an open seat. And I think that's one of the things that needs to be looked at very closely by the voters in Prince William, Manassas Park, as to who is going to lead the jury trial system, which is what the Circuit Court Clerk's Office covers, among many other things, for the next 8 years. It's a long term, 8 years. It's even longer than U.S. Senate, which is 6 years. So I think one of the critical factors that's the voters are going to have to decide on is who has the most experience and qualifications for that position. So among the candidates in our jurisdiction, I feel that I have the most that I can offer to the community and to the voters and the people in Prince William County, Manassas Park. As I indicated earlier, I was an assistant Commonwealth attorney for 10 years in Prince William, Manassas Park. Served previously as clerk of circuit court, so I don't need any on-the-job training. And also been in private practice for over 15 years. So I've worked inside the system in terms of the jury trial system and everything else that's attendant with the clerk of circuit court's office, as well as outside, representing people, bringing their cases and representing and defending them in their cases in the court system.
I was looking at the duties of the clerk of court, and they're massive. It's everything. Some court clerks safeguard historical records. I presume both in Prince William and Fairfax they have such. I know
Right.
Alexandria has
Right.
has quite a few. They handle birth records. They handle death records. As Dale had said, they handle divorces. They also handle every real estate transaction, every lien, every judgment. And I think I'm just about scratching the surface on how much that they handle. Well, you spoke about justice, and I'm tipping my hand here a little bit, but the fact of the matter is that given the Republicans' record in the last couple of years nationally in terms of safeguarding civil liberties and the like, I personally would feel a lot more comfortable with Democrats in those clerk of court systems aiding the justices or the judges as they dispense justice.
Right.
Let's talk about your opponents a little bit. Dale, tell us a little bit about John Fry and what he has done and certainly how you think you can do it better.
Okay, I think John Fry is probably a very nice gentleman. I don't know that I've ever met him. But there are, I think, going to be, coming out in this campaign, distinct differences in our policies. I see myself as running with Chairman Conley and hopefully the next Commonwealth Attorney Murrow, as well as Stan Berry, our sheriff, as sort of a safety team where we're setting up not only a safety issue but also a security issue. Those land records that are located in the clerk's office are very, very informative for anybody who wants to steal those for ID theft. They contain maiden names of people, They contain Social Security numbers. And right now, if you pay $25 a month, you have access to all those records. And it seems a shame to me and almost criminal to allow people of this community to be able to access that. And it's not so much people of this community as people outside this community to access that and use that to go out and deal in the identity theft side of this culture we live in. And I just don't think that's a proper way to have a system run. Those Social Security numbers, those maiden names, that information that can be used for identity theft should be redacted. It should not appear when you go into those systems. And if I'm elected clerk, I'm going to make sure that that's not going to happen.
Bill, how about what issues are hot in this race in Prince William for clerk?
I think one of the things that needs to be looked at, and one of the things that I'd like to have the opportunity to improve upon, is people being able to have greater access to information remotely from their offices, from the community. Now, I'm going to pick up on what Dale said, because clearly we need to make sure that people's identity is safe and secure.
Right.
So that needs to be done in the same context that we open up the process, and the clerk being the person who is going to allow and permit and lead that access to the information that people need to do their business. The clerk's office has a wealth of information that is important to conducting business, to protecting safety and security of people and property. When you look at the 800 duties that is mandated by the Code of Virginia for the clerk of court to perform, that's a critical function to have that interaction between the courthouse and the community. Being able to access that information remotely speeds up our business community, allows us to work faster, smarter, and more profitably. And in a capitalist society, we need to be able to do that. But we also need to be able to do it securely. We need to do it in a way that it's not going to harm anybody's identity or their perhaps even their credit rating. Make sure that those things that do not belong out there are redacted or are protected, and that we have safety in our property and in our identity.
And if I can just come into that, I mean, along with that, the thing we have to do is we have to make sure that when we're setting these systems up, that we're not bankrupting the taxpayers in our areas, in Prince William County or in Fairfax County. The county clerk's office in Fairfax, or the clerk of the circuit court in Fairfax, it's a massive operation, and it's a large, large budget, and it has grown immensely in the last 16 years. We just developed a system in Fairfax County. The clerk went through and computerized all of the land records. You know, you compare what happened, for example, in Arlington and their cost compared to ours, and even though we're the largest county in this area and our court operation's larger, our budget was way, way beyond theirs. And I think it's important that we keep budget in mind. It's important to make sure that the taxpayers get their dollars worth and we don't, you know, waste their money. And that's another thing I'm going to do.
I would certainly agree with that. And in anything we propose, certainly that I propose, and I won't speak for Dale, but I think Dale just made that point. It needs to be done in a tax-efficient way. It needs to be done fiscally responsibly. We can't just throw programs out there and add to the tax burden. We can't do that. We got to do it in a way that is responsible.
Folks, you can call in during the next segments of this show at 571-749-1166. We have with us today Dale Evans, who is running as a Democrat for Clerk of Court in Fairfax County and Fairfax City. And we have Bill Ryland, who's running in Prince William County, but also for the cities of Manassas and Manassas Park. Stay tuned.
This is Mommy's bed. Me and Jenny were jumping on it. Mommy's gun fell on the floor. I was a cowboy. Bang, 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 bang. I said, Jenny, wake up, it's just pretend. But she wouldn't wake up.
James, don't forget your helmet.
Will do.
Not a helmet. Your bike helmet.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm James Thrash with the Washington Redskins. On the football field, a helmet is an important piece of equipment. I also wear another helmet that's just as important. A bike helmet. It's the most important piece of equipment you'll have the next time you're out on your bike. Wear yours and make sure your kids do too. Safety first with the Skins.
Oh, hey, mister, studied algebra in school and got a better job than I could. You take the last couple.
Oh, no, mister. Stuck in an entry-level job because you only learned basic math. I don't have a boss riding my butt like you do, so you take it so you can get back to your desk.
You know, I probably should, but maybe Miss AP Calculus with the $200 haircut in the big office upstairs would like a cup.
Oh, no, Mr. What was your name again? Never mind, it doesn't matter. I'm too busy doing important things to care. I just came down for some sweet and start.
You know, if my limited math abilities weren't keeping me from getting a better job, I'd quit this afternoon.
I don't blame you. But thank goodness you're stuck here because we really need someone to make the coffee.
Line it up, baby. Come on. Line it up, baby. Come on. Line it up, baby. Come on.
My name is George Burke. We have two guests with us today. We have Dale Evans, who's running as a Democrat for Clerk of Court for Fairfax County and Fairfax City. And we have Bill Ryland, who's running for Clerk of Court in Prince William County. It also covers Manassas and Manassas Park. The Clerk of Court position is one of three positions in Virginia where they were literally included in the Constitution. You have your Clerk of Court, you have your Sheriff, and you have your Commonwealth's Attorney. I think it was put in the Constitution somewhere around 1619, if my history is correct. A long time ago. It is a very powerful position. In some of our largest jurisdictions, the clerk virtually operates underneath the radar. I mean, as I think I said earlier, I did not know the name of the Fairfax County clerk until there was discussion about running someone against him. And I think probably he would have preferred to keep it under the radar screen. Many of us feel it's going to be a strong year for Democrats this year, and across the board, whether it's for the Senate or for supervisor, for delegate, or hopefully for our constitutional offices as well. In Fairfax, currently, two of the three constitutional offices are already covered by Democrats. Right. So, well, let's talk a little bit about politics. Let's talk about the politics of a race for Clerk of Court in Fairfax County.
Okay.
Well, what are your plans? How do you mount a campaign? How do you get the eyes of the voters on your race?
Well, I think it's important first to talk about issues. I think that it's important that the taxpayers of this community know what I stand for and what my opponent stands for. And you know, I don't plan on running a dirty campaign. I don't want to sling mud, but I am going to differentiate between myself and my opponent. I think it's important that since the people of Fairfax County and Fairfax City don't know what the clerk does, to let people know what that position does. Now, I'm a new person running for this office. I'm actually going to file for the office tomorrow morning, and I hope to be the Democratic nominee. That's going to be determined by Thursday evening, hopefully. And I'll be mounting a campaign to try to make up for ground that has passed us by. There was a previous person running. He dropped out, so hopefully I'm going to be the nominee. What I want to do is I want to run my campaign closely affiliated with Jerry Conley and Stan Berry and Mr. Murrow, the candidate for Commonwealth Attorney. And I think that it's important that we run together, we run as a team, and we coordinate things. Fairfax County stands on the precipice of being able to do something and help do something in this state that I think is very significant. That is to hopefully turn this back into a democratic state. We've had failed policies up and down the ticket, starting in the White House, coming all the way down to the supervisors' areas in Fairfax County. We need to turn that around. We need to get people who are representative of what Fairfax County thinks, what Fairfax County feels, and we need to make sure that the residents of this community have a voice that's speaking for them at every level, and I'm going to be that person. I don't think presently when you walk out into the community and you say, who's your county clerk, and everybody, even people in my field, I'm a realtor, I deal with the land records. Every time I close a sale on a house, we deal with recording deeds and recording title. And you ask those realtors who the clerk of the court is, and by and large, every person I've talked to has no idea. And I think that's reprehensible. I think it's important that we know who our elected officials are. And I don't think you can blame the people of Fairfax County and Fairfax City because they don't go out and make the effort to meet the incumbent. I think it's incumbent on Mr. Fry to go out and meet the people of this community. He needs to be out there telling them what he's done. And I'm ready to sit down with him and meet the people of this community and explain what's going on in Fairfax County. And I think that when it comes out, I think when we talk about the issues and we talk about our view of government, I think that the people are going to respond. He's going to walk all over Fairfax County and Fairfax City telling people, I'm an attorney, Mr. Evans isn't, and I'm going to walk around and say that when the people created this position, and I believe it was in the 1902 Constitutional Convention that they combined these seats and to make the county clerk an 8-year position, that when they did this, they didn't say that the person has to be a lawyer. What they were looking for is somebody who's a good administrator, somebody who can run an office. My opponent has been faulted many times, multiple times I should say, by the state of Virginia for not following the laws of Virginia in his office. We need to look into those. That has to be addressed. We need to talk about that, and that's what I'm going to be talking about for the next 2 months approximately.
Bill, you're a lawyer, but you've also been an administrator in that office.
Yes,
I believe you worked as clerk in Prince William County for at least a year.
For a year.
Yeah, tell us about that.
That was a circumstance where the elected clerk decided to retire, and there was 1 year left on his term. The judges had to decide who they were going to seek to fill out that unexpired term, and they decided that I should be that person. So I filled out that 1 year position and then returned to practicing law. Went into private practice after that, and now that it is an open seat situation, I'm seeking that position.
So if you're elected clerk in Prince William County, you'll be a familiar face.
Yes, I would be.
How big is the staff in Prince
We have in the clerk's office currently approximately 57 full-time employees plus some part-time personnel.
And the clerk's office, what's ironic is the clerk's office, I believe, is actually in Manassas.
Yes, it is.
And for yours, and your office would be in Fairfax City.
It would.
In the city of Fairfax. Tell me about how are the politics are a little different in Prince William County than they are in Fairfax. Here in Fairfax, slowly but surely, it's getting bluer and bluer and bluer. We have a large majority on the Board of Supervisors. 2 of the 3 constitutional officers are Democrats. The vast majority of our delegates and senators are now Democrats, things keep moving in that direction. Prince William is not quite there yet by any means, but there's been a lot of activity there, and there are certainly a lot of good Democrats in the county and in the city. So how do you scope out the politics in Prince William and Byron's?
For the last 2 election cycles, for Senator Webb, we went blue in Prince William, Manassas Park. And then the year before that, with Governor Kane's election, we went blue. We almost went blue for Mark Warner before that. So you can see the trend as the way it's going through time. We're headed in that direction, and what we want to do this year is to bring that turning blue down to the local level. So that's what we're seeking to do this year among Democrats. I consider myself to be aligned primarily with folks such as Paul Ebert, my old boss in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. And he is running unopposed this year, and he will, with this next election, will be the longest serving Commonwealth Attorney in the state of Virginia. Chuck Colgan, who is our Virginia State Senator, among others, and he is the #1 senior senator in Virginia. So I look to both Paul Ebert and Chuck Colgan as leaders in our community. We also have a number of good candidates, particularly for chairman of the board, Sharon Pandak, and we have 2 candidates running for the Board of Supervisors, Frank Principe in the Woodbridge District and Corey Riley in the Gainesville District, and a number of other state candidates, as you know, state senator and delegate positions. Chris Brown, and we also have Paul Nichols and several others. George Barker has a portion of Prince William County. Toddy Puller is running unopposed this year, and she has a portion of Prince William County. So we're looking to bring all of those folks together. Jeanette Rischel as well in the city of Manassas and close Prince William County. Certainly don't want to leave anybody out, but we've got a number of good candidates. And we're using that as a springboard to make sure that we bring Prince William blue.
Well, it's certainly working that way, and wearing my other hat as chair of the 11th Congressional District Committee, I'm happy to have some very good Democrats from Prince William on that committee.
And George, if I can, I mean, I think that what Bill's talking about is really key. I mean, we're not talking about just one or two races anymore around the state that may be Democratic. I mean, we're setting up a foundation here so that if Mark Warner decides to run for the U.S. Senate, which I hope he does, but if he does, there'll be an infrastructure there to help him. And people like Bill and people like Margie Vanderhei and John Faust and Jay Donahue and Chap Peterson and others in Fairfax County, I mean, it's all a movement to try to get government back to the people of this community. You know, the clerk's office doesn't really have a lot of policy decisions they can make that affect the taxpayers outside of running your office correctly. We don't pass laws or resolutions. But you know, we can get people into those positions in Fairfax County, and maybe we won't have people passing laws that make taxpayers pay for transportation because they're paying for egregious tickets and fees that they have to pay. I mean, it's reprehensible what's happening in Richmond, and hopefully the Democrats around the community are going to take that and they're going to build, and it's going to bring this back to a little bit more sanity.
Well, there's some talk that not only, you know, some people are starting to speculate that not only may the Democrats take back the state Senate, that they may even take back the House of Delegates.
You're here.
Right.
Many people are hopeful that that's the case. That's a bit of a longer shot, I think, than the Senate. But these abuser fees have certainly backfired on the Republican majority. Some folks suggest, well, there were Democrats who voted for it and the governor had a hand in it, but the reality of the matter is it's the Republicans who control both houses of the legislature, and they're the ones that have to pay the piper. We'll see. There's still 75 or so days, 70, 75 days left till the election. Lots of things can happen at that point.
Right.
Folks, we'll be breaking in a minute. Our guests are Dale Evans, who's running in Fairfax County and Fairfax City for Clerk of Court, and Bill Ryland, who's running in Prince William County, but also Manassas and Manassas Park as Clerk of Court. Both are running as Democrats. We welcome your calls. You can reach us at 571-749-1166. Some of our viewers may have never thought before about the Clerk of Court, but I strongly urge you to go on to the website and even just Google Virginia Clerk of Court duties, and you'll find out how much power that position actually wields in communities throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. So I urge you to stay tuned. We'll be back in a couple of minutes for another half hour of Inside Scoop Virginia.
Some people in Fairfax County don't know what public access means.
Some think it's just another channel on the dial.
But it's much more than that.
It's the voice of the people.
People like you.
Your neighbors, your friends,
Or your family.
People who want to share ideas,
opinions,
Cultures, lifestyles,
art,
sports, music,
events, entertainment,
history,
science,
beliefs,
people who want to learn about television,
producing,
directing,
cameras, audio,
lighting,
editing, or radio, talk, music.
whatever you think people should hear.
Public access is the place where everyone has a voice.
And it's the place where that voice gets heard.
A place where you can create your own form of personal expression.
So what do you want to say?
Whatever it is,
You can say it here.
Because we're public access.
For the people,
By the people.
It is about balancing our choices between the gray of the concrete jungle and the stunning beauty of the real one, between a stoic facade of granite and the fury of the canyon. It's why there's EarthShare, the simple way to find balance. EarthShare is the workplace giving program bringing the leading environmental groups under one umbrella. Support EarthShare, support them all. EarthShare. Please ask your employer about workplace giving. To learn more, visit our website.
Thousands of kids in this country have everything it takes to go to college, except the money. The United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop, Virginia. My name is George Burke, and our guests today are Bill Ryland, who's running for Clerk of Court as a Democrat in Prince William County, Manassas, and Manassas Park, and Dale Evans, who's running for Clerk of Court here in Fairfax County, which also includes Fairfax City. Dale, I got to ask you a quick question.
Sure.
Anybody have a joke? Now, the younger viewers don't even know who Dale Evans is, but I was raised on Roy Rogers. Does anybody, they joke you as a kid or what?
Roy who? No, actually, I've been abused and kidded about that most of my life.
Yeah.
I used to have a guy that I was in the service with that used to always call me Trigger. And so, yeah, as long as the voters remember Dale Evans, I don't care how they do it.
It's an easy name to remember, at least among those of us who were old enough to remember Roy Rogers. Unfortunately, even the Roy Rogers restaurants aren't around anymore in most places.
And you can sometimes tell the difference in age because I noticed that some people, when I say my name's Dale Evans, they'll say, oh, like Chippendale. You know, they don't understand the Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. They remember the cartoon stuff. But just remember Dale Evans, that's all I care.
Folks, if you want to call in, the number's 571-749-1166. We will take your call. The clerk has, as you said, Bill, 800 different duties. Now, Ed, I'm not going to ask you to outline all 800 of them, but since you have held the office before, give us a sort of a real overview, because I don't think most of our viewers fully understand. We know that the guy rules the courts, and people should understand that that court is basically felonies and the like, I presume. It's the circuit court, not the district court, which handles misdemeanors and traffic. Go ahead, give us a rundown on what's
You're correct on that, George. It's probably the most important position in state government that people know the least about. But it is a very critical functioning part of our constitutional government. It is an elected position. A number of people are surprised that it is an elected position, but it is elected just like the Commonwealth Attorney, the Sheriff, and the Clerk of Court all together in the courthouse. There's over 800 duties that the clerk has to fulfill through the Code of Virginia, and among them, just a handful. One that I'm most familiar with is the trial setting. That is what happens in the courtroom. You've got a judge who conducts the trial. You have various attorneys on either side and parties that come in to bring their cases to be resolved either by judge or jury. The clerk is the person, the chief administrative officer, who provides the forum within which all of this can happen. Provides the deputy clerks that staff the courtroom to assist the judge and the parties through the cases, receiving evidence, logging it in, making sure it's preserved so that that becomes the body of the case. The clerk of court is responsible for summoning jurors in to decide cases. Take capital murder cases. Capital murder cases that are tried, certainly Fairfax and Prince William. Prince William County happens to have the most people on death row, a dubious distinction, as Paul would say, the most people on death row from capital murder cases. But where do those jurors come from? The clerk has to summon them in, and that's a chief responsibility to make sure that jurors are summoned in, that their needs are taken care of, that they are brought in from their homes, from their work, from their everyday lives, and make sure that their comfort needs are taken care of. So that's a chief responsibility of the clerk of court. That takes care of the criminal side, as you were mentioning, felonies. It also is the civil side as well, people that are injured in car accidents or injured perhaps in some form of health care, motions for judgment, various other things that need to be decided and resolved. That's largely the courtroom. Dale mentioned the real estate end of things. In my private practice, we have run a real estate settlement practice. So I have familiarity with and understanding of the real estate settlement process, taking a deed from the settlement table and making sure it gets recorded. In that recordation process, that is the only way to secure an owner's interest in real estate that resides in Prince William, Manassas, or Manassas Park. Any of those three jurisdictions, they get recorded in the clerk's office for the circuit court. That is the way that you make sure that the whole world knows that you or your corporation or your business or whoever the grantee is in that particular deed actually owns that property. So if the property increases in value, you have the equity secured by that recordation, that recording of that document in the clerk's office of circuit court. Anything else affecting real estate, liens, deeds of trust, anything else that affects security of financial interest in that property gets recorded in the circuit court clerk's office. Turn to another segment of the clerk's office is probate and estate administration. When our loved ones pass on, how do we transfer those assets from one generation to the next? It's done through the circuit court clerk's office. As you mentioned, in other states, there are many different duties that are broken off into other separate sections. In Virginia, we do not have a probate court with a clerk's office and a judge. We have the circuit court clerk's office system, which means that the circuit court clerk is the one to initiate that process for estate administration and make sure that all the assets flow from one generation to the next through the various branches of the estate administration process. So those are just a few examples. In addition, a number of other examples are notary public applications, also divorces, adoptions, concealed weapon permits.
That was
That's
on
right.
the tip of my
Concealed
tongue.
weapon permits done through the circuit court clerk's office. It's all about really the safety and security of our persons, our property, our homes. It's a very critical functioning aspect of our government.
Dale, one of the things, I raise this because a friend of mine just ran into this problem, is the title attorneys or the title companies, the ones that provide the title insurance, spend a lot of time dealing with the clerk's office. This happened to a friend of mine who was buying property up in Vermont, but they had closed the deal, etc., and they ultimately found out that somebody else had rights to that property. So either the title company or someone made a mistake in the process. But this is a very important role of the clerk's office.
It's very important, and this impacts almost every resident of Fairfax County and Fairfax City, as well as Prince William, Manassas, and Manassas City. I mean, we have to make sure that those records are kept properly. I will give Mr. Fry his due. I mean, he did computerize this system. It's a pretty good functioning system. I think it's got too much information on it. Again, I go back to the Social Security numbers and personal information that's in those records. We have to find a way to protect those. But it is computerized, and it is important. And it's because of that importance, and it's how it interacts with people, that we need access to the clerk and we need to know what's going on. And I might add that when we talk about the court system, Fairfax County, because of the size of it, one of the things that I think is important is we have somebody who's been there 16 years. We have to bring in somebody, I believe, who wants to take a fresh look at what's going on. You know, we can't become complacent with taxpayers' dollars. We have to constantly look at what's going on and make sure that we're being the most efficient, the most cost-effective, and we're making sure that the cost of government is the least possible amount that we can to the taxpayers. They deserve that from their public officials. We can't waste tax dollars. We can't have redundant positions. We have to make sure, and we have a large staff in our Fairfax County Clerk's office, and it's a massive budget. We have to make sure that that money's being spent correctly, and that the number of people that are there are the number of people that are only there to do the job. We don't have to have a lot of redundancy. And so that's one of the things I think you need to do. I think that has to be an ongoing process where you're constantly looking at your staffing. Can you computerize? Can you make sure that the access to the people who are coming to that counter or dealing with you over the internet, that's the best service you can give them, and you have to make sure that it's cost effective.
Now, in Bill's case, Bill, you are the Democratic nominee. There was no one else who ran,
There was no primary,
et cetera. And in your case, Dale, there was a person who had run. There was no challenger at that point. For personal reasons, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, he decided to withdraw his candidacy. And the Fairfax County Democratic Committee sent out a notice seeking candidates. And I understand, quite frankly, that you were recruited by some Democrats to run, and I checked today. There were no other people, at least at this point, who were indicating that they were going to seek that position. Obviously, somebody could come out of the woodwork in the next couple of days, but it's highly unlikely. And I wish you the best of luck.
Well, thank you, George.
But some people may be, some of our viewers may be wondering they'd seen a notice about a convention and the like. Well, there will be a convention on August 28th if anyone else files before this Thursday, I think.
At 7 p.m.
At 7 p.m. Then we would have an old-fashioned convention where your supporters would come in and the supporters of whomever else would come in, and the doors would be closed and these people would vote for one candidate or the other. If that doesn't happen, I suspect it'll end up just being a love fest.
Well, and I would love that.
The show has to go on now that it has been, the public has been notified.
But if I can say something, I mean, that process, you know, I worked in Iowa for Dick Gephardt in his 1988 presidential campaign. And I wish that every American in this country could go out to Iowa and work in that caucus environment. It's much different than a primary. I mean, I was mentioning to somebody today, in that process, you had people, Mike Dukakis, George Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush, all these people had to come into that state. And they would sometimes literally be sitting down with 3 people talking about the policies they believe in. And what a grassroots fundamental way to elect our leaders. And of course, it's impossible to do with the millions and millions of people we have in this country, but what a wonderful way to do that. And if that's what happens next Tuesday, I certainly hope it doesn't, but if it does, I would look forward to that, because I mean, I think it's important that we reach out to people, that this isn't a coronation or somebody just doesn't say, well, let's have Dale do it. I mean, I want to stand up and talk about the issues, and I want the people of Fairfax County and Fairfax City to hear those, and for those people to understand what I stand for, and then hopefully support me. And if that happens, I'm ready to do it, and I think that I'll be successful if the people give me their selection, and I just hope it works.
You know, it was interesting hearing you talk about conventions and caucuses in that way, because I tend to agree with you. I've done a lot of work in the New Hampshire primaries. I was a reporter, a political reporter up there and the like. But what was interesting in this election cycle is most of the Democrats who were vocal, whether it was on the blogs or even at Democratic meetings, seemed to be opposed to conventions or firehouse primaries, as we call them, where people come in within certain hours and are able to vote. But I think a convention can be a very democratic means, because it is like a caucus. It can be a very democratic means of election. As it turned out, in many of these primaries, while some were spirited, the number of voters were relatively low, probably no more than you'd get in a convention, maybe a little bit more than you'd get in a convention. But I don't necessarily subscribe here in Virginia to the rule that we should always hold primaries. I think conventions allow for issues to be discussed in much more detail, and they allow members of the same party to truly differentiate themselves from others in terms of who they are and what they stand for.
And they can do it without spending a ton of money. I mean, it's truly a grassroots affair. And the other thing that's sort of emerged lately in politics that I believe is wonderful is this whole concept of blogs. I mean, where people talk about issues. And I asked somebody the other day, I said, how would you define a blog? And I guess it's like a columnist in the internet. I mean, they may not have a huge constituency, they may have a huge constituency, but at least they're talking about those issues. And you know, if you travel to other countries, politics is something that's discussed in the normal course of events. People will talk about it over lunch, they'll talk about it everywhere they go. In this country, we sort of have a tendency to keep our politics personal until it's time for an election. And it's wonderful to have those blogs out there and those people doing it, even if it's not from the same party, but at least they're out there airing the laundry and talking about these things.
Well, we'll try to air a little more laundry in the next segment. Stick with us. I'm George Burke, and thank you for watching Inside Scoop, Virginia.
This is Mommy's bed. Me and Jenny were jumping on it. Mommy's gun fell on the floor. I was a cowboy. Bang, 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 bang. I said, Jenny, wake up, it's just pretend. But she wouldn't wake up.
If you give me a fish,
you give someone a fish,
You feed them for a day.
Teach someone to fish.
You feed them for a lifetime.
Give me a fish, and you'll feed me for a day. Teach me to fish, and you'll feed me for a lifetime.
Through Volunteers of America, you can help change lives in your community.
Oh, hey, mister, studied algebra in school and got a better job than I could. You take the last cup.
Oh, no, mister. Stuck in an entry-level job because you only learn basic math. I don't have a boss riding my butt like you do, so you take it so you can get back to your desk.
You know, I probably should, but maybe Miss AP Calculus with the $200 haircut in the big office upstairs would like a cup.
Oh, no, Mr. What was your name again? Never mind, it doesn't matter. I'm too busy doing important things to care. I just came down for some sweet and start.
You know, if my limited math abilities weren't keeping me from getting a better job, I'd quit this afternoon.
I don't blame you. But thank goodness you're stuck here because we really need someone to make the coffee.
Line it up, baby. Come on. Line it up, baby. Come on. Line it up, baby.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop, Virginia. My name is George Burke. I'm your host for the evening. And we have Dale Evans, who's a Democrat running for Clerk of Court for Fairfax County and Fairfax City, and Bill Ryland, who's a Democrat running in Prince William County, Manassas, and Manassas Park. You know, we had a little chat off camera that while the Clerk of Court serves everyone as an elected official and a constitutional officer, it is in fact a partisan office when it comes to election. And I know for a fact in both counties the Democrats are going to be working very hard for our nominees for these offices. Part of it is the principle of the thing, to elect Democrats. We feel Democrats do a better job, and part of it is, and I'm hoping that spurs some calls at 571-749-1166. And part of it is that, you know, the Republicans haven't necessarily done the best job at the national level or at the Commonwealth or local level. So that's why these gentlemen are here, and that's why they're running. Why should, Bill, I'll do this to you first. Tell me a little bit, why should, first talk to me about Michelle McQueig. I mean, all I know about her is that she is a delegate who was a delegate for X number of years in Prince William County, and she's a Republican. And please tell me a little bit about this Republican turned independent that's running in that race as well. And also, do you think it helps you that there are two Republicans running against you as a Democrat?
I think that's certainly a factor, and I think that's something that those two candidates will have to deal with. They are both, certainly Ms. McQuigg is the Republican nominee, and Ms. Beecham comes from the Republican Party. And then she made a decision to turn independent, so that makes three candidates in the race. I think that's something that the voters will really have to hone in on and scrutinize as to who they want representing them in the judicial administration of the jury trial system in the circuit court level. And with that, what experience do the candidates bring? And when you look at my two opponents, to my knowledge, neither one of them has had any experience in the courthouse or the circuit court clerk's office or any clerk's office. They are running for the position. As we mentioned, it is partisan. They just hope to get the most votes. What I want to do is to serve all the people by bringing my background of experience of 27 years working in the courthouse as well as outside the courthouse, working as an assistant prosecutor and clerk of court inside the courthouse, working for the people, as well as outside the courthouse, representing folks and bringing their cases in and defending them and representing them from outside the courthouse into the courthouse. To be the people's representative, to make sure that everyone has access to all of the various functions, those 800 duties that the circuit court clerk's office is responsible for. I think I can do a better job than my two opponents, and that's why I'm running in this race. And I think that's one of the sharp, distinct differences between myself and my two opponents.
Michelle McQueig opted not to run again. Who's running in that seat this time around? Do you know?
That it would be, our candidate is Paul Nichols, and then on the Republican side there's Faisal Gill.
How about your opponent? I mean, he's a mystery man, although he's been in there for 16 years. Some people say he needs to win one more term to win his pension.
Well, I don't think that's a reason that you vote for people. That's the worst reason for voting for people. I think earn is the operative word here. We need to make sure that our elected officials earn that. We in Fairfax County have such a great slate to choose from this year. Jerry Conley, Mr. Morrow, Commonwealth Attorney, Stan Berry for Sheriff, Dale Evans for Clerk of the Circuit Court, as well as at the state level with people like Chap Peterson and Margie Vanderhei and others around the district. It's important that we carry that message to the people that we care about government for the people. And I'm not sure that being a clerk for 16 years where nobody knows you is giving people government for the people. I mean, he should be out there talking to people every single day of his life, interacting with the people at the front desk, interacting with the community, speaking to people about the issues at the clerk's office. And if he's doing that, maybe he needs to hire a public relations firm to help increase his name ID, because I can't find anybody who knows who he is.
Neither can I. What is the, Bill, again, you've done this job. What is the most labor-intensive part of it? Is it the criminal court? Is it the civil court? Is it the real estate transactions? Give us some kind of feel for the delegation of duties of a clerk. And again, I think in Prince William and Fairfax that would be pretty comparable, although Prince William now has a rate of growth that Fairfax has already seen, and Fairfax the rate of growth is slowing down in Fairfax, and you folks and Loudoun and a couple of the other outlying counties are facing more of that rapid growth. So there's not that much area to still build houses on in Fairfax.
Certainly Fairfax is a much larger jurisdiction and has the greater volume and the greater business. But you're right to focus in on the rate of growth, because that certainly impacts how you manage and administer the office. As we touched on previously, the clerk of court does not make law. The clerk of court administers law that are passed by our legislators. In terms of the labor-intensive part, it's pretty well spread around to the various sections and duties for the Circuit Court Clerk's Office. Court Administration Section, which operates and administers the court process in the courtroom. The Real Estate Section that records deeds and all manners documents related to real estate. The counter where you file your cases and initiate lawsuits, as well as probate and all of the other provisions that have to go with estate administration. There's a number of different sections where all of the duties, the labor, as you talked about, is spread out. I wouldn't say that one of them is any greater than the other, but it's part of the clerk's duties to make sure that all of those functions and duties are properly administered and properly taken care of.
We've reached a time in our program where I like to provide candidates an opportunity to talk directly to the voters and tell them why they want them, ask them for their vote, basically, and whatever else you'd like to say. I'll give each of you about a minute and a half to do that. You want to start?
Sure, yeah? Sure. The reason I got involved in politics back in the 1960s is because I had parents who cared about what happened. The 60s were a volatile time. My parents were on the cutting edge of that, and they got involved in the Kennedy campaign, and after that they were involved. I was involved as a political operative in congressional races and so on. But the reason I do this today is because I have 4 wonderful children. And my kids mean a lot to me, and I want to make sure that the kind of government they're going to receive when they get older is the kind of government that I've had in places I've lived. And I'm not sure from the clerk's office that we're getting that kind of representative government where we have access to him and we can talk, and he talks to the people. I want to make sure that the voters of this district, that their personal information is protected so that they don't have to worry about having people stealing their identity. I want to make sure that people have an ombudsman in the clerk, that they have what I would like to call a friend at the court who can actually take up their issues and talk to them and understand the problems they're having with the system so that that person helps the residents excuse me, of this community deal better with the clerk's office and the court process, because we can't talk to the judges. They're not elected officials. They're not going to come in and listen to us as much as the county clerk's office is. So I want to make sure that we have open access government. And, you know, more than anything, I want to work with Jerry Conley. I want to work with Mr. Morrow. I want to work with Stan Berry. I want to work with the people who are there on the Board of Supervisors. I want to help make this an effective, cost-effective, effective government that's going to respond to the people and the needs that they have in this community.
And if I get Mr. Fry on this show, will you come back and debate him?
I'll be here half an hour early.
All right. Bill, please tell the viewers why they should vote for you.
Thank you, George. I got into this race because I feel that I have the best qualifications of any of the candidates to provide the best service to our community, to do it in a responsible way, a tax-efficient way, one that makes the best use of the taxpayers' hard-earned dollars, to make sure that we can reach the next level of improvement over the next 8-year term of the clerk of court. That's a long term, and that's a term that I hope to be able to fill out and to administer properly so that everyone in the community has that open access to the clerk's office and all of that information and all that data and services that protects the property and safety of our homes and our community, our families. I too want my children to be able to grow up in our community and to raise their families in our community in a safe way and in a way in which we have open access to our government and our court system. Our court system, to most people, I think, on the outside is not as well known, and that is something that should be opened up to the people so that everyone can have that access and have the services that are so critical to business and family.
And Bill, I'll ask you the same question. If I get your opponent to appear on this show, will you debate?
Sure, absolutely.
Judging from the, we're lucky to have these two articulate candidates, and I think they'd give any opponent a run for the money. As we draw to a close, I want to thank both of you for participating today and wish you the best of luck in November. And I also want to tell the viewers that we're hoping in the coming weeks to have some debates between the Democrats and Republicans for various issues, for various races, whether they're running for state senate or delegate or supervisor for that matter. And we hope you will join us for some of those programs. We'll be signing off for tonight. My name is George Burke. I'm the host of Inside Scoop Virginia, and we were lucky to have Dale Evans, who's running as a Democrat in Fairfax County and Fairfax City, and Bill Ryland, who's running as a Democrat in Prince William County, Manassas, and Manassas Park. They're both running for the respective clerks of court. Thank you very much, and join us again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Slip away.